All right, guys, welcome. First podcast I'm ever doing, so bear with me. I'm happy to have my dear friend and partner in the hospitality, Scott Auden, with me. Auden Hospitality. It's a London-based company. Am I correct?
Correct. That's it.
Well, maybe you can introduce yourself better than me. Take the stage.
100%. I can do. Listen, honestly, I really appreciate being number one on the podcast. This is it's cool to see another hospitality person having great conversations. So, congrats on the launch of the show.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to be subscribing and listening, so that's really fun. Hi everyone, I'm Scott Turner. I am the founder of Auden Hospitality. As Jean Paul said, we're a London-based F&B consultancy. It was born after 15 years of working in luxury hotels, and then I went and worked in independent restaurants in 2015. And I learned in independent restaurants that restaurateurs think in a very different way to hotel F&B people, and I really believe that there's a real value to bring some of that restaurateur mindset back to hotels. And I think we've talked about it a lot, JP. I think hotels are at an amazing juncture right now where they're starting to really value food and beverage and what it can bring to the hotel as a whole. And I definitely win conversations with owners, investors, asset managers. They're starting to see the importance of really building a central F&B hub in the hotel that's going to drive people from the local community and from a bedrooms perspective into the hotel. So I think we're at a really exciting time, and Auden, exactly like five-star hospitality, is right at the front and center of that. Working with hotels to bring a little bit of restaurateur mindset and thinking into creating independent restaurants within hotels that can really add to the whole mix.
All right, great. Could have could have said better myself. Really happy to have you here. Scott, today I want to talk with you about the bar industry. I know the
Yep.
restaurant industry is always taking the lead somehow in
Yep.
hotel F&B. It's all about food, but as my personal heart also goes a bit towards the bar industry, I'd
Mm,
love to discuss the bar industry with you because what I've seen nowadays is a lot of you have bars and hotels and hotel bars, in my opinion.
mm, mm.
A hotel bar is just a lobby lounge where one bartender is mostly attending guests who are waiting for their room to be ready. Um, there are budget expectations from owner side and the GM, but I don't think this is really a place where, for me, it's the same like a airport lounge. You know, where you're
Mm.
just passing time to go to your room or to go to your flight.
Yeah.
How do you see the future of the bars in the hotels nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, I have a real problem with the all day dining lounge or bar anyway. I just think that the time of that has been and gone, and we need to do more exciting things. I'm kind of done with the whole thing. I think when it comes to hotel bars, some of the best hotels are built around great bars, and those bars are then the feeders into the restaurants, into some of the other outlets. They're the way for people to engage with the hotel. It's low barrier entry, and I think the bar has got a real place to create that real hub. And I have conversations with hoteliers all the time. Sometimes it's really difficult to get people into your restaurant. We're covering hotel stigma right now, with people thinking that hotel restaurants are boring. You know, hotel guests don't necessarily want to eat in the hotel because they want to go out and experience the rest of the city. And I think what bars bring is an opportunity to get people into your hotel, whether that's local community, whether it's the hotel guests. And sometimes you've got to accept you're not going to get people in your restaurant. So let's get people for a drink before they go out and a drink when they come back, because your bar is somewhere where people want to go and want to hang out. And I think that's the real opportunity of really putting a focus into hotel bars now. And you'll have seen it. You know, I think sometimes what they're always done is it's the place where you can kind of do all day dining. So you can kind of always get a burger in the bar, and you can always get a Caesar salad and a pasta, and then you can get a beer, and you can get some all right cocktails, but they might not be that consistent. Music is a bit patchy and doesn't really flow with the day. And I think that's where we need to just put identity into all the spaces within food and beverage now in hotels, and I think the bar's a great place to start as numero uno.
And do you think, like I see more and more bars and also restaurants, but keeping it on the bar industry,
Mm.
um, in hotels are like outsourcing it. They're getting third parties in to do their F&B department. Especially in the Middle East, I think everything is almost third party.
Yep.
What's your opinion on this? Is that something that is that the future? Will third parties take over hotel F&B, or is it something that hotels also will start to develop themselves?
I I think I have this conversation a lot. I think it really comes down to the individual hotel and what makes sense for that individual hotel. I honestly think more GMs now, GMs of hotels, definitely in the day that I was in hotels, I left hotels 2015. To be a hotel GM, everyone told you you had to have rooms experience.
Yeah,
You had to understand how to sell bedrooms and all the rest of it. Uh, and they ignored F&B because F&B was always kind of, it was just run. There was great F&B people around. What we've kind of got now is this talent gap of great F&B directors, and therefore it puts more pressure on a hotel GM to run F&B and to lead the F&B strategy. But we've
yeah,
got GMs that are rooms people because that's how we've always been brought up, that it has to be a rooms guy. I would challenge now that the skill in hotels is in revenue management and not in F&B
yeah,
leadership. And therefore, let your rooms guys run the rooms and put a GM in there who believes in F&B. If you don't want to do that, outsource it because it's the best way to generate cash. And that comes with its challenges. It comes with challenges from a quality perspective. They, you know, you have to negotiate with them when you want to do things to do with the hotel. You can't just put amenities in bedrooms anymore. You've got to negotiate. You know, I was talking to a hotel GM who's a friend of mine. Their F&B is totally outsourced, and when they want to do a fam trip, they pay full price.
yeah,
So
yeah,
his
yeah,
sales and marketing budget is almost three times what it needs to be because he's paying full price every time he
correct.
wants to put a hotel guest in a bedroom. So there's a lot of negotiation. There's a lot of added things into a third party arrangement that people don't always look at. They always just look at the profit of we're going to get a rent of X, and
Yeah,
that's great because we don't have to do all the hard work that's involved in F&B. Where I think there's an opportunity, especially in bars, uh, is we obviously, before we went into third party operators, we went into license deals with
yeah,
chefs in restaurants. So the Ramses of the world, the chef names that used to go into the restaurant, they'd come in maybe once, twice a week if you'd done a great deal, but nine times out of ten it'd be monthly, and they would put their name on the door. I think there's a real opportunity now for hotels to work with great bar people to do exactly the same thing,
yeah,
whether
yeah,
that's on a license deal or whether that's purely as someone who comes in and does the consultancy on the menu and then the training. I think there's a real opportunity where we can really jump on some of these amazing bar mixologists, bartenders, bar people that are in the independent space, give them
yeah.
a platform in a hotel and really engage with them in the same way we have done with chefs for a long time. And I think that's a huge opportunity that's kind of been ignored. And I think that's where the third party thing can come in with bars.
Yeah, and maybe if they join forces, they can like, create a brand of themselves. You know, like,
Absolutely,
I
absolutely
think
right.
there's a lot
Yeah,
of
I agree.
opportunities there. Um, what difference makes a difference in a bar? Up to you, because everything they're all doing the same.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the difference that they say? Okay, this different approach really makes a difference. Do you have any examples?
Yeah, for me, it's always down to experience. It's down to experience and what you can deliver. If you're going to a hotel bar right now, you're going there for a reason, right?
Yeah,
Otherwise you can go to lots of independent bars on the high street, and that works. So I think experience is key, and all the little touches that you're getting in some of the great cocktail bars now. You're getting a glass of water, you're getting a little cocktail or taster on arrival. There's the real elements of where things can be done table side, and all this type of thing that I think make a massive difference to what it is. So I think the experiential side of it is super key. in terms of delivering a difference to other people. And then when it comes to the cocktails, I think when it comes to the cocktails, I see a trend. I don't know about you, it'd be interesting to hear what you see, but I see a trend almost going back towards the classics now,
Yeah.
and the classics being the base, but then people adding in different syrups or doing different things to them, like washing old fashions or fat wash Negronis and things like that. And I think that's where there's a real opportunity to have a real play, and it's where now the collaboration between the kitchen and the bar can really create some really fun ideas. There's Wojciech Veg, who is an advocate for food waste in the hotel space. I interviewed him on our podcast, and one of
Yeah.
the things he was saying is all that food waste that comes out of a kitchen. There's so much you can do with things like watermelon rind, where you can make amazing syrups for cocktails, and kind of take that at no waste. So it's
Yeah.
GP happy that can then pay for the little touches that you do at the table, that type of thing. I think there's a real opportunity to really start playing together as a kitchen and a bar team to really develop it. We've just been working on a restaurant opening, and the owner got Mr. Lion Studio to do the cocktails. And one of the things that they've really played on is really bringing in different syrups and mixes and things like that from an ingredient perspective, spices, fruits, that type of thing, to really add a different element to the drink. So I think, yeah, there's that there. I think some of the great stuff that's happening with coffee in cocktails, with tea in cocktails as well, as a real opportunity, especially with tea, to replace like the spritz. Everyone thinks doing a spritz is like the easy way now, especially in kind of rooftops and pool
Yeah.
environments.
Yeah.
I think
All
I think
great.
it's everywhere, right? It's Aperol spritz, elderflower spritz. I mean, we
Yeah.
could probably
Yeah.
write the menu now off the top of our head. I think using tea and really looking at how the flavors of tea can bring a difference to a great drink, I think could have an opportunity to replace the spritz and
Yeah.
really bring a different flavor, especially if you're mixing. Like here in the UK, English sparkling wine's becoming a huge trend now. So if you can create a beautiful tea cocktail finished off with an English sparkling wine, there's a real story behind the whole thing,
Mhm.
and you're creating a delicious drink that's a little bit more effort and a little bit more story than just putting a basic Aperol spritz or
Yeah.
spritz menu into a space.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I think uh, I agree with you completely on the classics. I see all the
Mm.
classics are really coming back.
Yep.
They're making some twists on it in their signature
Yep.
menu, which I quite like because it gives you something to compare it with. Like
For
a
sure.
lot of signature cocktails were like a huge mix of drinks and herbs, but they were not really
Mm.
uh, a solid foundation. So you had no idea how it was supposed to taste. It was okay.
Yep.
Do I like it?
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's it. But I think what's really cool that the bartenders nowadays, okay, they make like a twist on a Negroni or
Mm.
like an old fashioned, gives you something.
Yep.
Hey, this I identify flavors. I recognize things. Oh, look
Mm.
how cool they changed it. And I think that's, like you said, for the experience, it's a huge improvement and reason for people to go to a bar.
Yep.
I also believe like the time of the smoky old fashioned in every hotel bar kind of, yeah, you know been
Yeah,
done
100%.
many
I mean,
times.
it's like, I was always taught, in the time of where more around recession, but I guess it's the same now where people are starting to watch the wallets and things are becoming more expensive. People always go back to what makes them feel comfortable, which is why pubs and bars in recessions have a boom. Because everyone kind of remembers when they were at a pub in the childhood,
Yeah,
they can go and get comfort food, all they can go and get, like, and I think going back to the classics, where we are in the world right now with the economy, is a real sign of people going back to what they know, and the value that they put on their cash and what they're spending is far greater. So if they want an old fashioned, they know what an old fashioned should taste like. They're not taking a risk on someone coming up with a fancy cocktail. And I
yeah,
think I'm with you on, like, I was in Las Vegas in March, and uh, I think it was with Kenny. Oh no, it was with another guy. But we were sat in the bar in the hotel, and they did a smoky old fashioned. Looked amazing. They did it under the cloche. They did the smoke.
yeah,
But the problem was, is when it came to the table, we got two. They made them at separate times. Both of them had a different flavor profile. The guest that I was with had no balance to the smoke and the drink whatsoever, and it was just like one of those things where a bit like if it's just not right, it just tastes like an ashtray. And I think
yeah,
there's far more interesting stuff now that I see where you've got like old beer barrels or old whiskey barrels where they've been burnt and the old fashioned is batch made and it's put into those barrels and you naturally get the smoke and the caramelization from the wood and you create a really delicate flavor from a smoky old fashioned, but
yeah.
it's got a story, it's in the barrel, you can do it in front of the guest. Like I think there's all those little bits now where the palate of the guest is becoming much more educated,
Yeah.
much more refined. So I think we've got to find ways of ensuring consistency and finding it. You know as well as I do, like labor is a challenge, talent is a challenge. I think that's why batch cocktails are becoming much more common now because you can have one person who creates the batch and it's consistent for a number of days. So it
Yeah.
takes the skill element out of things. I'm starting to see tapped cocktails a lot more now that sits on a back bar with beer, wine, and cocktails, which I think in the right setting absolutely can be a USP. So there's all
Yeah.
these little things that are definitely changing that can really help. Really
Yeah. I
help
agree.
things.
Yeah, what's your opinion about wines? I think wines is always kind of the ugly stepchild in the bars. You know, okay, we'll do some wines just for the heck of it
Yeah.
because it's more like a restaurant product,
Yeah.
which I like to discuss. Because I think a great wine on a terrace where you're just having a drink
Mm.
is amazing. What's your vision on this? What's the future of the wines in the bar industry?
Yeah, eh, I think you've got to have someone passionate about wine
Yeah,
because people are willing to try. We were in Budapest recently. We went around quite a lot of the wine bars there that are doing kind of natural wines, and every single person that was behind the bar knew everything about every single wine that was being offered. And this was a shop with bars in them. And we sat there, we got a bottle of natural wine, beautiful flavor. The guy could get us exactly what we wanted from a flavor profile. We sat there with some beautiful ham and cheese and just sat and chatted away and talked. And I think it's again back to that whole piece of, because people are now going out for more experiential visits, you've got to have something more than just Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Grigio, Gavi di Gavi, Albarino, for example, because people are just they're looking for a bit more, right? And I think having that with everything, running great bars is about having people behind it that are super passionate about what they're serving, whether that's the champagne that you're pouring, whether it's a wine on the wine list, whether it's the cocktails, the beers. You've got to create reasons for the team to be excited, and going mainstream because you have a great purchasing deal on the mainstream beers isn't
yeah,
isn't the way to do it. It's about having that choice and that point of difference that they can engage with guests about, and really kind of have something to be passionate about, because right now, you know we're losing a lot of the great bartenders to be baristas, because
yeah.
baristas work 8 till 5. They can have just as much fun making coffees and chatting with people and stuff like that in coffee shops. So we've got to bring some of that back, because people want in that work life balance, and bars don't give work life balance in the main. So we've got to
No,
find ways to engage them in different ways. Some of the best guys I ever worked with, some of the I was my first management role in a hotel was a bar manager in a 5-star hotel. We did, big events. We had 3 bars. We had outside spaces. It was a big operation, and I had students there who finished university doing what they were doing and stayed in the industry because we just loved what we were doing as the bars. Everyone loved the the drink side of things. We had a whiskey cabinet with 300 whiskies that they all stocked and went up to Scotland and were learning about them and things like that. And I always talk about one guy who he did a chemistry degree, and he didn't want to do hotels. He came and worked for me as a part time bar guy, and he stayed in the industry ever since. Now he's a hotel GM in the north of England and running a hotel. He has a chemistry degree. Some would say it probably comes in useful for bars,
Yeah,
but yeah, and I think that's just the power of what a great bar can do. It can really inspire people on both sides of the counter.
yeah, I agree. I agree completely. If you could change one thing in all hotel, all bars, what would it be?
Wow, that's a big. You should have prepped me on that question.
Yeah, right.
I tell you what, I tell you the biggest change that I think needs to be is we were talking about it earlier. For me, it's not creating an F&B environment that is pigeonholed as restaurant, bar, and lounge,
Yeah,
because I just, we're used to too much, so much more identity now on the high street that if people come into our spaces and it's very generic, they will
yeah,
just go out to the high street. There was a stat that was released by the American Hotel Lodging Association. I share this everywhere, so if you've heard anything from me before, you'll have heard this stat, but it's true. 60% of guests are now booking hotels in America because of F&B,
yeah,
but it's not the F&B in the hotel. What they're now doing is brand loyalty has gone.
yeah,
They're not booking a Hilton because it's a Hilton, and they'll stay wherever it is in the city because it's a Hilton. They're not interested in that. What they do now, they're going guests are going onto Google, they're creating the Google Places map, and they're
yeah.
looking at where all the F&B is, and they're booking right in the middle. If your hotel's there, great. If they've got Hilton on as IHG Rewards, Marriott,
Get it?
Bonvoy, great. That's good, but it's not the driver anymore.
Yeah,
So what that means for hotels is if we really look at F&B as a strategic uh, offer for the hotel, we have a huge opportunity to create more F&B revenue, drive
mhm,
hotel bedrooms, and increase length of stay. So it's a huge opportunity. So my one thing I would change is really looking at the F&B and thinking a bit more like a retailer, thinking a bit more how department stores like curate what they do around retail F&B and what have you, and start creating public spaces that have identity, that have a story, that have a meaning, and fundamentally creates different reasons for guests and local community to visit at different times of day for different
yeah,
reasons. Don't try and get people coming into your bar for a coffee in the morning if it's not going to be great coffee that's done by a barista that's served consistently every time. Leave it to be a bar and create a coffee space that people will go to, and it's labor efficient, for a reason. It's got a point, it's got a purpose. I was in a hotel. Sorry, I waffle a lot, but I was in a hotel the other day. It was a four-star hotel in London, 600 bedrooms, and they were doing. The chef told me they were doing about 10 million pounds in hotel F&B revenue. And when we sat there with my team, we were looking, and we were really looking at this outlet. It wasn't trying to be something it wasn't. It had a huge amount of American business. It had a Starbucks in the lobby. The Starbucks had a queue.
yeah,
Now, I'm not saying Starbucks is the right thing for every hotel, but if you have a large proportion of American guests coming to your hotel, putting a
yeah,
Starbucks in the lobby is absolutely the right thing to do,
yeah,
because that's where they go. When I was in Vegas, the Starbucks was the busiest venue in the whole place,
yeah,
and so there was that. There was a terrace outside on the it was on the Thames, and it was serving beer. It was doing Aperol spritz
yeah,
on tap. And it was packed because it wasn't overcharging for the beer. It wasn't trying to be something. It wasn't. It was a stop off on the river, beautiful view, and you could get a great pint and an Aperol spritz, and off you went. And what they've done is curated this F&B environment that was right for their business,
yeah,
and they're making 10 million quid. And I think that's a great example of just looking at your F&B in terms of like, what's your target market? Who are the people coming to stay with you? Who are the people locally? and how do you create something for them, not for
yeah,
the owner or for the brand?
yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I remember when I was working in Qatar, I had a discussion with a guest. We was always I saw him on my off day. I went to a bar in Marriott, a nice sports bar, and we always run into each other. And I asked him how he got there. No, he was working for a big company. I said, "Oh, so you're placed here?" I said, "Yeah." So how did you choose the hotel? I said, "Well, the company came to us and said, listen, we have these are our deals. They're more or less the same.
Mm.
Which hotel do you prefer? They're all five-star properties." And he told me, "Oh, I like this sports bar. I've been here before, so we
Yep.
choose this hotel," which immediately gave them like a lot of rooms, long stay,
Yep.
just because they love the sports bar, just to
Yep.
go for a beer after a hard day's work. So I think F&B is really underestimated in many hotels how it can trigger or how it can be a decision maker for guests.
For sure. I was at the Bar and Restaurant Expo in Las Vegas. I did a couple of talks, and
Yeah,
one of the talks that I did was a panel talk, and on that panel was the VP of Food and Beverage for Caesars, and
yeah,
he looked after Planet Hollywood, Paris, and one of the other one I can't remember which one it was. And it was really interesting when he was talking about food and beverage because he was talking about how they essentially curate food and beverage to keep people gambling longer
yeah,
and make people visit their casino. And he said, we're not a food and beverage hotel, we're a casino that serves food and beverage. But the way they structure it is so much different. And we went in the new Fountain Blue.
yeah,
Um, and in there, just near the casino, there is a bar, a sports bar. And anyone listening to this, like, get on Google and go and look at it. It was called the Tavern, and this is a high-end luxury hotel in Vegas. And the way they curated this bar was just outstanding. The
yeah,
screens were huge. There weren't TVs. They were like floor to ceiling screens that went almost 180 degrees around the venue. There was different spot on these screens as well. The seating was like bang on in terms of keeping people there for a full game or a full match. You know, there was ways that you could gamble at the table. There was gambling screens on the bar so you could see the sport behind it. Everything that had been done there was super luxury, but it was for the market that was going to keep those people either in the hotel to
yeah,
go to the casino after, or if they wanted to gamble and watch sport, there was an opportunity to do that. And I think, so many times you'll speak to an owner and he'll be like, I don't want TVs in my hotel. Yeah,
yeah,
but done
yeah,
well. I had
yeah,
this conversation with some guys the other day that we're about to work on a members club, and
yeah,
it's going to have 7 F&B venues. And there was an argument on the table around, I want a sports bar and I don't. And I said to them, like, done well, it absolutely has the right place in the right building for the right target market, but it's got to be done in the right way.
yeah,
And so I think your example's absolutely right. Like, there is a market for these type of things, and it's done well. We had another conversation with a guest, with a someone we're going to be working with in Nairobi,
hmm,
um, and Nairobi, in Nairobi, everywhere shows sport. It's just
yeah,
like we were laughing on the call to be like everywhere in Nairobi has a TV that shows the Premier League, and
yeah,
these guys didn't want a TV in. They have a rooftop lounge that's Peruvian that has a TV in it, and I was like, well, we're talking to them about an extension they're doing and potentially putting in another location, and I was like, why don't you just make it a really cool sports bar?
yeah,
But do it in a really cool way that means it fits with the hotel, it fits with your DNA, it fits with the vibe and the energy, but it absolutely plays to the market. And it really fills a gap that's in your hotel right now that can add to the value of it. So, I mean, we're digressing on sports bars, but my point is that I think any concept has an opportunity in the right place in the right market.
great.
9 times out of 10, the people who put the blockers on it are the owners because it's not their vision, is the brand because they don't want to see it in there. People don't think it's luxury.
Yeah,
But anything can be luxury if it's done in the right way and you spend the right money on it. So I think that's where the opportunity is.
yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think the brand and the brand standards and above property, and the
Yep.
owners are the biggest, like you said, ceiling for F&B development.
Yep.
I even worked in a property where they didn't want to do nothing with the World Cup in their
Yep.
lounge.
Yep.
World Cup football takes, I don't know how many million people watch it.
Yep.
Fit the brand. I go,
Yeah.
oh, I'll take that discussion up any day if it fits the brand
Yeah.
or not. But
100%.
I'm not
Yeah.
grabbing an opportunity like this because it doesn't fit the brand. I think it's a personal opinion. No, I
Yeah.
cannot say that World Cup football, which moves the entire world,
Yeah.
wouldn't fit any brand. But then
Yeah.
again, that's another discussion. Um, Last thing, if you could open a bar in any place, any type, where would it be, and what type of bar would it be?
Oh, great question. I would. I think I would open a rooftop bar. It definitely wouldn't be in London because we don't have enough sun. And there's far better places to open a rooftop bar. I think it'd be a rooftop bar. I tell you why. Is because I just think there's something when you get a rooftop bar right, they
Yeah,
are magical,
yeah,
and the energy and the vibe that you can get is just amazing. And I think there's something about being outside under the stars at night when music is playing. You get the right lighting going off as well, and you've got drinks and you've got the energy and things like that that I think is really hard to create under four walls and a ceiling. So I
yeah.
think definitely for me it'd be a rooftop bar. I really love I really love kind of Arabic French lounge house music as well. I think the energy that you can get with it is just
Amazing. Yeah,
so cool. And it transcends through the day. I think that like kind of feeling of Cafe Del Mar where it
yeah.
transitions. I think doing that with that type of music
Mhm.
is would be super cool. And what you can bring then with like the food and stuff from the Mediterranean and the drinks and the flavors that you can bring in from that part of the world. Maybe I'm biased because I spent a lot of time in the Middle East, but I think doing
Yeah,
that and creating it. I was in Beirut quite a bit just before COVID, and some of their rooftop lounges there
amazing.
are just phenomenal. Like Sky Lounge is in a car park, and you're looking out across the harbour across Beirut, and you've got the music and the lasers and the screens and all of that. It's fantastic. But then even the original Iris in Beirut, that's like right in the heart of the city, that's on the top of kind of the residential buildings, and you've just got this energy and that type of thing. I think it's super cool. So yeah,
All
that's
right,
what I'd do
right,
off the cuff.
amazing. Sounds
When are we
good.
opening? When are we opening, JP? You
Well,
find a location.
I have a location. I'll call you after this
Perfect.
podcast. All right, guys. Well, Scott Turner, thank you so much for being
My
my first
pleasure.
guest. Um, Take a look on your website, audenhospitality.com. If you need any good consultant, please put in the email that you were referred by Five Star Hospitality, so I can join in.
Yeah,
And
100%.
I wish you all the best. We'll be in touch for sure, and we'll talk soon. And then to everybody looking, well, thank you so much. I hope I did a not too bad job for it being the first time on the podcast. And I'll see you guys soon.